Alrighty, it's about 20 degrees out today, which is the warmest it's gonna be for until next week. So I gotta start doing this stuff now so you guys can have a video for this weekend. Main thing I got to do is clean up the rotors. This one's actually pretty good. You can't really, I mean, you can see like there's obviously carbon on there, and that's a spot where a clean finger touched. So I could definitely go with wiping that off. There's some actual carbon deposits. It's three-dimensional stuff. And then over here on this one, that one's got a big obvious chunk on it. Clearly that was from one of the housings that was leaking more than the other anyway. So I got to get all that cleaned up. I did go ahead and do something I thought I wasn't going to do. I ordered oil control rings, which, see the kind of metal circular things? I'll have this pulled out probably in this video. Well, it's basically just a metal ring with a groove on the inside of it, and you put a O-ring inside of that groove, and then you put it back in, and that's it. Nothing too fancy with it, but it basically controls oil, so that way oil can leak out past those and help lubricate the faces of the end plates as well as the center iron. So I'm gonna get a little station set up kind of, and we're gonna get working on cleaning up these rotor faces. Oh, also gonna try doing something else for this video. I kind of realized it makes it somewhat difficult to see on especially on YouTube, so we're gonna try. Nope, it doesn't want to do it while I'm taking a video. Basically, we're gonna try to do this in more of a landscape, so hopefully I can get that set up and working well. Alrighty. I just realized there's a QR code on there. I've almost cleaned it up enough to be able to scan it. I might try to take a picture of that a little bit later, see what it pulls up. I'll take a screenshot for you guys. This was the bad rotor. Not that it was a bad rotor, but it was the most difficult to clean up. Let me actually zoom out for you. There we go. Let's see. The sides on this one were actually cleaner than the sides on the other one. But the faces, I still have a lot of crap that I can't get off even with a steel toothbrush, which is basically turned black. So that's going to take a little bit of effort. Anyway, let me think. For the irons, I think I'm going to assemble the engine block all together. That way, yeah, I could just kind of have this inside sealed off, and then I can pressure wash the outside to take care of the flaking paint. In case you're wondering, basically I used that steel brush and the Brillo side of this sponge in order to clean these things up. I'm pretty sure it scraped the hell out of them, but nothing on this rotor is a sealing surface, and these are still ridged more or less from the factory when they were, I think these were machined, at least the faces of them were. Sorry, it's hard to talk, it's so cold out here. So, that's a bit of fun there. Still got a bit more to clean up, and I gotta pull out the oil control rings from here. I think I'm gonna wait to do that until I am ready to put the new ones in. I don't think too much of this matters, but I want to keep things from the face of each rotor on the face of that rotor. I should be putting everything back into its individual spot, but I've kind of mixed everything up already too much to be able to do that. So, that being said, in case you're wondering why I didn't use a wire wheel on either a drill or an angle grinder, that's the second can of brake clean that I've used cleaning these things up. And this is a very relatively enclosed garage, so I would be blown up by now if I tried to do that. I would put some kind of heater in here. I was actually going to bring in the fire ring from outside and just get a couple things going in there, but I thought about it already. The wood in here is fairly dry, and there's a bunch of random stuff around that's decently flammable. And all the brake clean fumes in the air right now would probably ignite this place within a heartbeat. So we're not going to do that. That being said, I think tomorrow is going to be a little bit warmer, so that'll be nice. And I mean, by a little bit, I mean like a couple degrees, so it won't be that nice. You can actually see some of the original marks on this. This one cleaned up rather well. This didn't have much carbon on it. There's still some bits like up here at the corners I couldn't get off. So this had some leaking into it, but not nearly enough to be any real concern. So it was just the other rotor that had issues. It's wonderful. Gloves covered in oil now. So, I was thinking a little bit, once I get all the paint off of these, I know this isn't a priority to any regard, but before I assemble the engine, I'm going to paint it. I'm thinking I'm going to leave the aluminum housings, basically the aluminum color. I'm not even going to paint them. There's not really a reason to. And then the irons, which is the front, the rear, and the center plate, once I get the paint off of those, I'm going to put a probably a primer coat if it needs it. And I think I'm going to go with metallic blue or a gloss blue. Or I think what they call it at O'Reilly's is anodized. And I think that might accent the red car and the red interiors and everything like that pretty nicely. And then I 3D printed a proper shift knob before I was using half of a broken Darth Maul lightsaber, which worked rather decently. But I figured I better go with something a little bit more traditional. So I found one that actually has the proper H pattern, which for this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, press down, right, back is reverse. Took me a little bit to figure that one out. Actually had to have my dad help me. So that's got that on there now. It's still just plastic, but before was an anodized red aluminum ball. In the summer, that thing was burning hot, whether the sun was on the vehicle or not. And in the winter, it was freezing, no matter if it was cold outside or not. So I had that part of that lightsaber in there. And that plastic never really changed temperature. It doesn't, I mean, it's plastic. It doesn't transfer heat very well. So that's why I decided to figure out the threading for the shifter stick and just print one out that'll fit it, and that's what I did. It fits on there pretty snug. I could clock it more if I wanted to. I also have a ring down at the bottom that I can tighten to kind of counter tighten it, however you want to call it, like when you put two nuts on something you tighten them together. So that way it stays oriented right and you can read the shift pattern on it pretty nicely. So that being said, I think I'll come out here tomorrow. I'll try to clean these up a bit more, and I'll try to remove the oil control rings. I was going to say something I needed to make sure of is that these are going back where they're supposed to. This is the front rotor. It says S on it. I don't know why. S, LB, more QR codes. And yeah, so I just got to remember that this is the rear rotor. So I'm going to take a picture of the QR code or scan it and then take a screenshot of wherever it sends me. And I should be able to share that with you guys. So I'll probably see you tomorrow for me. All right, I went through and tried to decode that QR code, but I was not able to find anything out. By the way, it's a lovely 25 degrees out here, so short sleeve weather, hell yeah. I'm assuming that's a Mazda specific thing. I don't even know if I can get it to show up nicely on here. I had to go and make an Excel grid and try to put every little dot where it was supposed to go. It's a 20 by 20 grid. I think that QR codes work on a different basis, like 16 by 16, 32 by 32, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm not going to be able to figure anything out with that. Not that I had anything I needed to figure out, so most of the fumes seem to have cleared out of here from the other day. So I'm going to hit this with a wire wheel on just a drill. I'm not using the angle grinder on it quite yet. So let's see how well that goes. Let's take a look at the damage that I want to clean up first. Yeah, look at that chunk. There we go. Got oil all over my hands. So yeah, that thing would not come off with this toothbrush. I even tried scraping at it with the pick and it wouldn't come off. So let's see what we can make happen. Alrighty. Copious amounts of elbow grease and very clean later. I don't think that's actually a thing. I think needs a little bit more work. This is finally cleaned up. This is the second rotor, one that had all the crap built up on it. I was able to get all the crap out of the main pockets, which is the important part. Still could use a little bit of work. Oh, nope, that came right off with my thumb. Cool. So, rotors are cleaned up. The oil control ring seals should be here tomorrow or the day after, so I'll probably be doing those in the next video when it's going to be 40 degrees outside anyway. Let's see. The housings are going to be pretty much up next. I think I'm going to like bolt everything together, and I want to say I want to pressure wash it just to try to get the flaking paint off more than anything. I honestly don't think I'm going to paint this engine because it doesn't really need it, honestly. I mean, even the spaces of the iron that have been exposed aren't rusting. I gotta take a really good video of it when I put this engine back in, but the underside of that car is immaculate. I think it's got about 130 something thousand miles on it, and there's no real rust. I also don't know what's going on with the exhaust system. It's not magnetic, except for the catalytic converter, but it doesn't look like it's stainless or aluminum, so I don't know what's going on. It might be stainless, honestly. I'll have to take a better look and show you guys that when I get that under there, but that's going to be later in the year thing when we don't have snow outside. My camera won't even focus. It's too cold and, you know, snow and light. So, with all that being said, this is finally coming up decently. That's the front rotor over there. That one was already pretty nice, but I still went to town on it, making sure it was better than it was coming out. It was going to be a little bit to put everything back together, but it's doable. That's the important part. I also picked up some O-rings and kind of like rubber spacers almost for the fuel injectors. That way when I put those back in, they're going to be better off than they were coming out. This is one of those engines where you have 10 million things where it's like, while I'm in there, I might as well do this. But the next thing you know, you spent 10 grand rebuilding a motor. It is if you want to boost it. Well, the fumes are starting to make it hard to breathe. So, thanks you guys for coming along for the ride today. This is starting to come up pretty decently. Although, I mean, I guess once I get the control rings and everything in, it's basically just time to put all this back together. There's nothing that needs to be done with these. I mean, clean them or basically spray them with brake clean and wipe them down. That's basically it for those. And then put everything back together. That's going to be a painful day. Anyway, that all being said, thanks you guys for coming along for the ride. If you could leave a like or subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Anything you can do for the channel helps me put more back into the channel for you. It's getting hard to talk because it's still pretty cold. I will see you next time. Have a good one.